Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today at day 2 of the very first ever California Seaweed Festival. I'm so excited that everyone could come today because today is probably one of the best days you could be here. It's food day, and I mean, we have just an amazing suite of seaweed foodies here to talk about all of their wonderful products. And so I should introduce myself. I'm Leslie. I'm the co-founder of Sunken Seaweed, and I'm based right down here in San Diego. I'm coming to you from my home office, which I'd like to acknowledge is on unceded Kumeyaay native land. So to start things off, we're gonna do a panel for about 15-20 minutes with my friends Pat and Avery. And then we're going to actually go to Baja, California for a live cooking demo. That will be done by Drew Deckman, who's the chef down in Valle de Guadalupe area. And that will be co-hosted by Brant from California Seaweed Company and Ian O'Halloran from Seaquia Seaweeds. And then after that, we are going to do a live cooking demo with Janine Pfeiffer, who has a really amazing seaweed recipe to share with us today. So we should get started. I would like to introduce first Avery Resor from Daybreak Seaweeds. And Avery is based out of the Northern California area. And Avery, would you like to take it away?
Yes, thanks, Leslie. Hi, everyone. I'm Avery from Daybreak Seaweed, like Leslie said. My partner, Catherine, and I work together to create nutrient-packed, umami-rich seaweed products that are good for you and good for the ocean. And to do that, we partner with regenerative ocean farmers to bring the highest quality, sustainably grown seaweed from the pristine waters of the Pacific Ocean to your kitchen. We're excited to be here today because we are committed to fueling well-being for our customers and to all of you and our community, and to using our business as a positive force in the grassroots movement that is transforming our food system.
That's amazing. Thank you, Avery. I look forward to all the questions that are going to come in. And Pat, do you want to give an introduction, 12 Tide Seaweeds?
Yeah, for sure. So hey everyone, I'm Pat. I'm the founder of 12 Tides, and we source organic kelp from regenerative ocean farms here in the US and make tasty ocean-friendly snacks. Right now we make these tasty puffed seaweed chips. And just a very quick backstory. Before starting 12 Tides, I spent a number of years in kind of the old school seafood industries, like large scale commercial fishing and aquaculture. And so I saw a lot of the bad things going on in the oceans, things like overfishing, pollution, coastline destruction. And I wanted to find a much more positive way for our food system to interact with the oceans. And regenerative ocean farming and kelp can certainly be a big part of that. And so that's why we created 12 Tides and why we do what we do today.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks both of you for your intros. And I'm really excited that you're both on this panel because I know both of your companies pretty well, and it's amazing that you're packaged goods companies, you know, your seaweed is amazingly nutrient dense kind of snacks, and a far cry from, you know, traditional packaged goods that are just kind of full of over processed, over commodified junk. And so that in and of itself is amazing, but also both of your companies have just an amazing kind of quest to do the most good in every way possible, you know, for the planet and for social justice and all that. So I kind of had a couple of questions around that while the questions from the audience roll in. And by the way, all of you watching, please feel free to type your questions in your chat and I will make sure I address them. Like I said, nutrient dense, amazing snacks and seasonings that both of y'all produce, sourcing your ingredients from the United States coastline. Pat, you're sourcing from the Northeast, and Avery, you're out in the Rocky Intertidal collecting from Northern California. What I guess, what is the best way that you can like encompass what you do as an environmental justice movement? Pat, maybe I can start with you and ask about your B Corporation certification and sort of what that means when you're giving back and doing your kind of 1% for the planet type deal.
Yeah, happy to talk a little bit about both of those things. I think the B Corp certification, we wanted to do that from the very early days, more so than anything else to keep us honest about our commitment to people on the planet as we grow. We do work with a nonprofit here in California called Sea Trees. They are an incredible group of sustainable surf that supports by funding and driving awareness ocean restoration projects around the world. And an important one that we are supporting right now is the reforestation efforts of California's natural kelp. And as I'm sure many people on here are well aware, purple urchins have taken over in a number of areas off California's coast and devoured a great percentage of our natural kelp forests, which are critical to the local ecosystems, store a lot of carbon, et cetera. And so, we work with Sea Trees to help, support some of those kelp reforestation and purple urchin removal efforts.
That's amazing. Thanks for doing that. And I love that that's on your website and explains it very clearly for folks to see that, when they're supporting your company, they're also supporting this amazing restoration effort on land and in our coasts. And then same question for you, kind of Avery, how does Daybreak Seaweeds focus on restoration, and like what are your goals as a company and as kind of this outreach platform that we all kind of have to be at this early stage of the seaweed industry?
Yeah, thanks for that. And Pat, great answer. We also are, look up to a lot of B Corps and would love to do that one day, and are also 1% for the planet members. But I would just say, like, taking a step back a little bit, Catherine and our backgrounds are in sustainable agriculture, and we are environmentalists, we are nature lovers, and definitely not business people. So when we started this business, we made sure to bake into like every single part of the business sustainability and community minded action. And that's like natural communities and our communities here in California, in Alaska, where we're working with farmers up there. So basically from farming to processing to packaging, we just make sure we run our business in line with our values, which makes running a small business even more challenging, but we really wouldn't want to do it any other way. And for example, we've just started working with an amazing farmer in Alaska who truly has a regenerative seaweed farm. As you talked about yesterday, and I'm sure we'll talk about more, growing seaweed is amazing for the environment, takes, sequesters carbon and nitrogen and makes the water column a more hospitable place than it was if there wasn't seaweed growing there, and provides great habitat. So in that, that's where we source from. And then to processing, we make sure to process as in line with our values as we can. And frankly, Catherine and I do most of that ourselves. And then packaging is a really hard one that I know Pat has, struggled with as well, and has really done a great job with, is that we are a packaged food company, and packaged foods in general are packed in plastic or sealed with plastic or something. And, our products are in these little jars, and we really try and use zero single-use plastic, because we're an ocean company, and plastics, as everybody knows, are polluting our oceans. So that's a long answer, but we try and bake it in any way we can.
That's just super important answer, and it deserves kind of that whole start to finish kind of description, because, packaging, I've seen the transformation of your company, of starting so small and you're strapped for resources, but it's part of your ethos to have sustainable throughout the entire kind of product line. And so I commend you both for focusing on all of these really important environmental and social aspects that need the attention. And, with seaweed, just there's something around seaweed food and farming and all of that it just commands like a different sort of model than that traditional capitalist model that we all grew up in, and we're all millennials, I think. And so we're faced with all of these really intense ocean crises, kind of nonstop. So being part of the solution fully is a challenge in this arena, but y'all are killing it at that. So thank you. I have several questions. First of all, people want to make purchase. So are your goods available online or in any sort of supermarket setting, co-ops, or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. Yes, we have an e-commerce site. It's just our website, daybreakseaweed.com. And then we sell in Northern California. So we sell, depending on where folks are, just at natural grocery stores from Santa Cruz area up to Mendocino County. And we sell seasonings and cooking ingredients and other fun ways to incorporate seaweed into your everyday lives.
Yeah, and I think we probably sell in a lot of the same spots, mostly in Northern California, starting in a couple of weeks. To the extent there are people in Southern California, we'll be at Erewhon in kind of throughout the LA area. And we also sell online, so 12tides.com.
Awesome, thank you. And they're both delicious. We also would like to know, the audience would like to know, what species specifically or what varieties of seaweed you put into your products.
Yeah, I can start with that one. I think for the vast majority of kelp farmers, at least right now in the United States, they're growing winged kelp and sugar kelp. And I think there's maybe a few others that are starting up in Alaska. And so we use all sugar kelp in our snacks. And we're looking forward to opportunities to work with new species of kelp as they start to get farmed more commonly in North America.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. We use winged kelp, which is here in California, and then in Alaska, the species we use is Alaria marginata. And we call it Alaska wakame because it has a super similar flavor profile to the Japanese wakame, which is actually a different genus, but the flavor and the way you use it in cooking is quite similar. And we just love it. It's like the flavor is almost like salty sweet and very mild with nothing fishy in it. And so Catherine and I have just always thought that that's what we wanted to make our products out of. And like any kelp, it's super high in iodine, which is really good. But then wakame is especially high in calcium and magnesium, iron and potassium and B vitamins, even B12. So it's easy to cook with. It adds so many nutrients. It's a beautiful kelp, which is probably not relevant, but it's true. Yeah, and we're just really excited to be able to source it from farms.
That's amazing. Those are all really delicious varieties. And I have a question that might be for you, Avery. Someone recently made chicken stock. This is a question from the audience. And they added several types of seaweeds to their chicken stock, thinking maybe it would add umami flavor. Were they correct in that assumption?
Yes, great job doing that. I think anytime I make any stock, vegetable or meat, I add specifically what we call California kombu, which is Laminaria seychellii. And but adding any kelp really can add that umami to a stock or a broth. Even adding like we just have seaweed flakes that you could just put in your chicken stock, and it just adds that depth of flavor. So I always use this example that my mom always makes like a turkey soup after Thanksgiving, and she's been making it for years and it's delicious, and she's not a seaweed person. And one year I just made her put some kelp in, some kombu, and it transformed the soup, and now she's like a devotee. So I think really it's hard to express how much of a difference it makes till you really try it. But I would add a kelp into that.
Nice. Good call. Yep, that's a staple. Throw some kombu in your morning tea. Even.
Yeah.
Okay, anything last? We have to wrap up already. It's been 20 minutes. But I would like to give you the floor if you have some closing statements or things that people must know that I did not ask.
Wow, that flew by. I'll just say something really quick. Just eat more seaweed. It's so good for you. It's so good for the planet. Whether you grab 12 Tide snacks, you use our seasonings, any of these other producers, support these small businesses, and it'll be good for you and good for our oceans. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I would echo the same thing. Spread the word. It's still a very, very young industry in the United States and in North America. And I think it has a huge potential to transform our food system and our relationship with the ocean for the positive. And so the more people we can get in the kelp camp, the better.
Right on. Yeah, I think you guys are really leading the way in that, and appreciate all of your efforts there. I will start to position it. We are heading south. We're going to Baja, to Deckman's. Let's see if I can pass the mic. You guys did so great, Pat.
The host disabled it. You can't start.
style poke. And Toshi?
I was thinking make a sashimi, but I changed it just right now. Yeah.
Adapt and overcome like a good seaweed producer.
Awesome. Okay. That's fine. We can restart from the top. Whenever, just cue me and we'll kick it off again. From my part or from Drew's? That's fine.
I don't remember what I said.
That's fine. I'll start over. Okay. That's no problem. Okay. All right. I'm Brian Klobowski here in Baja, California, with California Seaweed Company, and I'm really excited to be down here in Baja, which, although it's the California Seaweed Festival, I wanted to give a nod to a region that's literally near to me in San Diego and dear because of the culinary experiences I've been able to enjoy. One of my first experiences as a graduate student at Scripps Oceanography studying seaweed was showing up at Deckman. See, I'd read about Chef Deckman, who has cooked around the world and really brought an international experience to the Valle and fell in love with the fresh local ingredients and really brought sustainability to the forefront, and not as a secondary component, but as the necessary ingredient to make amazing food. And I showed up one Monday morning with a cooler of seaweed, kind of like shaking in my boots, saying like, is he going to run me off the ranch kind of thing? And he took me in and we made a dish. And that really, I think, catapulted my love and confidence into understanding more about how to go from growing seaweed to not just the supply, but to the demand part. And I think top tier chefs, Michelin star chefs like Drew Deckman, and chefs that have taught around, or chefs that have cooked around the world and taught others, are an amazing example for both consumers and for seaweed farmers to think about, because we really have to think about not just the best supply possible, but articulating the best demand possible and expanding the ways people think about seaweed from what might be today the classic green seaweed salad. And it's worth noting, I think a lot of people are surprised that 98% of what we're consuming, more or less, in the United States is imported, often dehydrated or frozen. So it's kind of like if you've only eaten canned spinach and then all of a sudden someone brings their backyard spinach over and gives you a salad. So that's kind of the experience I was hoping that Chef Drew and Chef Toshi could take us through here, because that's literally what they do in Baja. It's still alive. And with that, I'll stop talking and flip the camera around to this beautiful kitchen so you can see where we are. First, Drew Deckman to set up where we are, why we're here, and what's special about this place to him and seaweed.
Hi, everybody. Drew Deckman here. We're in beautiful Baja, California. California Seaweed Festival. Okay, we're 85 miles south of the border. Obviously, ocean currents, fish, pollutants, watershed is all being shared. The environment doesn't respect or understand country borders. So being as close as we are to Southern California, sharing ocean currents, sharing river runoffs, there's no difference. It's one California, in my opinion. And so this restaurant where we're staying today, Toshi, come here. This is my partner here. The restaurant's called Baja CA. We've been open about a year. The idea was to open following traditional Edomai philosophies of a sushi restaurant, but applying it 100% to Baja California ingredients. So we call it Baja Mai as opposed to Edomai. And, literally it's what the fisherman brings us, what we have available. We don't serve tuna. It really concentrating on line caught, sustainably foraged, or even better, sustainably farmed seaweed. So this is one of my favorite things in the world, ogle. And it grows out here, but the foraging here is not always sustainable. So we get to rely on great producers like Brant, and there's so many in California that are really giving something and creating flora and adding back as opposed to taking. It's almost like growing a shellfish. It's like you just put it in the water and then just wait. It's like, oh, it does it all by itself.
Drew, can you tell us a little bit about how you and Toshi connected and how you were able to build beyond Deckman's as an institution and add this seafood element and really combine forces and cultures there?
Absolutely. So, by the way, we're in Guadalupe Valley, which produces 95% of all Mexican wines. If you didn't know that Mexico produces wines, you should. And if you haven't visited us, call me, baby. Come down and see. There's all kinds of cool. We're literally 12 miles as a crow flies to the ocean from here, but we're at about 1,700 feet of elevation. Toshi was working in a restaurant in Tijuana. Left that restaurant, sent me an email. I spent everything that we made in the restaurant behind you that you can't see. Weekly, I went and consumed in his restaurant, and we became good friends. And he left the spot where he was, and he sends me a message saying, "Thank you for always being at my table. Thank you for always, promoting us, but I'm not there anymore." And so my answer was not sadness. It was, get your knives, get in your vehicle, and get down here, because we've got this spot here for you. And so we've been open about a year. Are you happy, Toshi?
Of course.
Okay, good. That's good.
I'm interested to hear a little bit from both your chefs. You both have cooked around the world. Toshi, you were working with Sushi Ota, which is one of the one of the top sushi restaurants in San Diego, if not other areas. So I think with your background in sushi, maybe you had maybe tell a little bit about your experience with seaweed there and maybe how it's developed coming maybe here with Baja.
6 feet. Yeah.
No, I live in the Tijuana long time. But always work in San Diego. 2018 started working in Tijuana, using the product in Mexico. Little bit, but I like very much. And I knew him, and I visit the restaurant. It's so nice, so good. But we don't do that much work for make the plate. We have a garden. We can get fresh vegetable. We can get fresh seafood from 30 minutes away. He said what is important, ingrediente. Ingrediente. I believe same thing. Yeah. That's why I started working here.
Awesome.
And I like his plate very much.
Thank you, Toshi. And Drew, tell me a little bit. You're normally sourcing for seaweed, as you said here. What would it be like, or how would it be for you if you could basically be able to know that you would have consistent, high quality seaweed? I mean, what are some of the things, some of the dishes, flavors maybe that excite you about having fresh seaweed, whereas maybe a dish that was lacking it wouldn't jump out or excite you as much?
So one of the things that we do, there's a couple of producers here just south of us in Arendia. Unfortunately, almost everything they do is dehydrated and exported. We found a way to have them save a little bit of what they're doing. It's mostly sea lettuce, wakame. They have a very small nori production offshore. There's some ogo, dulce. And so when we get it, instead of just thinking, okay, it needs to be in a ceviche or we add it to our mixed green salad. And people are like, whoa, what, it's no longer just a salad. Now you're eating, raw seaweed with lettuces from the earth. And so you get this really cool combination of textures and flavors.
Can I ask you a zinger?
Yeah. Because
a lot of people talk about seaweed providing this umami flavor. So as a chef, to someone maybe that can't conceptualize what umami is, maybe a dish they might have eaten that would have some of that umami characteristic, or what does that bring to a dish that's something that is different than the other flavors?
So understanding umami is traditionally the palate has 4 flavored zones. Bitter and sweet are polar opposites. Acidity and salt are polar opposites. And that's what has always been understood as the palate. Umami, if you can imagine what savoriness is, which I can't describe. I think it's so sensual that it's so sensory that you can't, there's not really words for it. But, without a doubt, the eating raw seaweed creates that round feel on the palate, that round feel in the mouth, and also has the ability to pull flavors out of other ingredients that may not be leaders in a flavor combination, but because of the umami and the abilities of the seaweed, it'll pull from a lot of different, from those 4 flavor areas, and maybe bring one out more, bring one other out. And so it's just, for me, it's amazing to have, something alive from the ocean that we can add to our food.
Thanks for being so gracious. That's kind of a gotcha question, because it seems like people struggle to describe it, both as the consumers or even in kind of marketing. So that being said, what do we have for your dish, and what are you working with in front of us here?
So I'm going to do like a Mexican style poke. So everything we have here, except for the ginger and the avocado and the ogo, is from our garden. So in this bowl, I've already added some chilies, tomatillo, cucumber, and some scallions. We've got these cool little Oaxacan style cucumbers that we planted this year. Some cilantro leaves, and this is yellowtail, line caught here from around Ensenada. I'm gonna add that. My bowl may end up being smaller than I imagined. So we'll mix this a little bit. First thing we're gonna do is gonna add olive oil. This is olive oil. It's actually we don't produce it, but it's olives here from the ranch where the restaurant is. I've always found when marinating fish, if you add the oil first, it coats the fish. So when you add acidity, you don't cook the fish. It protects the fish. It keeps its color. So we'll keep mixing this up a little bit. I can already smell it. We ground some ginger earlier, and that I think that's what's booming here. Shoyu, so soy sauce. Keep mixing. It's a poke, so it's not a ceviche. So we're actually just going to add a little bit of citrus right at the end, so the fish doesn't cook. Avocado. We don't grow many avocados down here just because we have serious issues with water. I'm guessing this is probably this is not going how it's supposed to be, which is always what's happened when you're alive. So we'll put that over there. I'm just going to cut some avocado cubes.
I think another cool thing that I've seen in talking with you about seaweed is that if you're a vegetarian or vegan and you know that is better for the environment in terms of your kind of footprint, you don't have too many options if you want to taste the ocean, right? Whereas, you're cutting out what we're basically recommending people to move towards is very sustainable seafood, but also if we have to move towards something for vegetarians and vegans as they grow in numbers, seaweeds are really I think the only thing I can think of where you can have that same or a similar profile or have a taste of the ocean in any dish that you're working with.
Right. I totally. And I'm not a nutritionist, but the diet or nutritional benefits of seaweed are. Do you know the number of grams of protein and all that stuff?
Well, I know for seaweed, for example, has higher protein than some high nutritional content than any terrestrial crop per unit of mass. So, it kind of knocks terrestrial crops out. I would love to, I see that Leslie has some questions and wanted to take some questions that we've been simulating. So happy to hear from that and field those over here while we're cooking.
All right, so my poke is done, huh? So I'm going to eat half of it.
We have some questions from the audience. It looks like one of our viewers says they bake a lot, especially desserts. How can I use dried seaweed in sweets or baking?
Interesting. Well,
next question.
As we don't have an oven and we're not cooking, I have had dulce, the bacon of the sea, with chocolate. So I think anytime you have a dried kind of broader leafed seaweed, ogo would probably work too if it's dried. Then you can incorporate that. Again, you wouldn't want to over dry it if it's already a dried thing, maybe finishing with that flavor. But then you're bringing some umami into chocolate. That's the first thing I've thought of. And I've seen a few chocolate bars with seaweed flakes. I think fats and umami go pretty well together. The chocolate parties with everybody, right?
Right.
It's hard to go wrong.
All right, so we're just this is some locally harvested sea urchin here from Ensenada. And that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, on the video, it's really tough to taste this. Was it Sharks Always Smile? Trust me. It tastes pretty good. Cool, so we got the sea urchin. And we're all set. So this is ogo, playing an important role in marinated seafood, vegetables from the garden, easy. I mean, that was what I could have done it probably in 30 seconds. It ended up being, I went really slow just so we could enjoy each other. Mm-hmm. So.
Thank you, Drew. That's amazing.
Toshi-san.
I'd love to throw it over to Toshi to see what Toshi's bringing. A more traditional take on seaweed use. What do we have here, Toshi? Can you describe a little bit about what you have set up?
Oh, just seaweed. I was thinking of making sashimi with seaweed, but when I saw the seaweed, which plant brought this today. I changed my mind.
What did you change your mind to?
No, usually seaweed, wakame, we want to put sashimi plate. But always main thing is a fish. Como wakame is like a side on the side.
Okay.
Always never became a main. But I always looking for the like this seaweed, and I find today this is a chopped ovo, and this is a boiled ovo. Just in the glass. Chopped over also. And this is like a pond sauce, sweet pond sauce.
So basically, seaweed two ways to change the flavor: a boiled ogo and then a fresh ogo.
Yeah.
And that brings out different flavors based on how you're preparing it.
Yeah, different. But just right now I was thinking, oh, this is I can use this one or this one. So I don't know exactly how different, but I'm sure this is very good for the como like an entree. When we start to the eating the like a dinner or some course.
Okay.
Seaweed, sweet ponzu, and like a grind ginger.
Okay. Thank you, Toshi.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. Leslie, I wanted to make sure we have a chance to kick it over to Ian, who's also here representing his work with Seaquia Seaweeds and the foraging side of seaweeds as well. So I wanted to give him a chance to talk about how he's approaching it. And if he's available, we can go there when you're ready, if that makes sense. Thank you so much, Toshi. And I'm going to do some shots of the food here in the meantime. But this, wow. Yeah, I know it's cruel and unusual when you can't smell or taste the food, but we were trying to give everyone a chance to take a little vacation and imagine either being here or trying to do something like this at home. Again, there was very little actual cooking. It was Toshi was able to boil the ogo and get a little different flavor, and here we're able to just prepare it relatively raw. So Leslie, are we ready to kick it back to?
I think we're putting Ian's video up right now.
Okay. Is there anything else we can field in terms of questions on the cook demo side here? I hope that was not too mean that we can't taste it all, but really it's been fun listening to the chefs talk about their experiences with seaweed and their what they can do on a fly. I love how Toshi just had to freestyle and change his mind live here. I think that's the fun of working with artists, right? They change their thought on a dime.
No, that was beautiful. Beautiful food. I really wish I was there right now. Maybe once this pandemic subsides, I can head down there. It looks like we have Ian now. There were questions from the audience. A lot of them have to do with, folks with kids that don't find seaweed super appetizing, but want to include it in their diet. So if there are any kind of suggestions there, any sneaky ways to get seaweed into meals, Awesome.
Yeah, that's interesting because I see kids snacking on seaweed more than adults. I was almost thinking the generational shift is going to come from the young, but yeah, you're right. I think with poke, for example, I have nephews that are 4 and 6. I don't think they dive into a bowl of poke as readily as they would to a burrito or something like that. But, if it isn't a taco or something, I think that's a way to maybe introduce a little bit of the seaweed and seafood umami flavor without having it be a center cut piece. So I think using it as a complement rather than as a center ingredient might be a good way to kind of tease it in and then see if that appetite is asked for more, then you can kind of maybe go with more full seaweed forward dishes. I don't know if that helps, but that's how I'm approaching it with my nephews. And Leslie, should I cut off the video here as we go to Ian?
If you would like to leave it on, I mean, you're in a really gorgeous setting. So if you and Ian want to go back and forth, that's cool. I will kind of put my background off.
All right. If I could be smaller, then we could feature Ian. I think he's got a layout of some of his products, so we can keep an eye at, and then he can be center. That'd be great.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Ian O'Halloran here with Seaquia Wild Seaweeds. So I'm based out of Santa Cruz. I focus on all wild harvesting and foraging, canopy forming kelp and intertidal seaweeds. So grateful to be here today. What an exciting event. I'm so inspired by all of you, listening to Pat and Avery and Brant and the whole crew over there in Baja. I just thought I'd give a little rundown, on the other side of things. I know we have some wild harvesters out there and some, aquaculture producers. So what I do is I focus mainly on very sustainable, regenerative, local species of kelp. One of my main ones that I've been working with for the last 6 years now is Macrocystis pyrifera, giant kelp. And as we all know, there's a lot of issues in California surrounding the health of the kelp forests. It's gained so much in the media, which has been so amazing, health benefits, culinary uses. And so that's kind of what I focused on. I couldn't pinpoint one thing I wanted to do with kelp and seaweed. So, feed, fuel, fertilizer has all intrigued me with this species. So, so what I do, I'll show you just a little display here of various aspects and a little quick rundown. I studied and got into kelp and seaweeds through agriculture. I studied at the University of Hawaii at Hilo. Did a lot of off-grid living, sustainable food production, and off-grid living. So, my goal was to always utilize local regenerative resources that could help humanity in all industries across throughout agriculture, the cosmetics, and as a food source. So what I initially started was, and intrigued my interest was creating a kelp fertilizer, and that's what we have here. So what we did was we harvest giant kelp. It's one of the most regenerative plants on planet Earth. It's an perennial, so it can can grow up to 150 feet tall, live up to 8 years. Its reproductive sporophytes are at the base of the stipe, or the stem, if you will. So harvesting doesn't endanger its ability to reproduce. So that always intrigued me as such a go-to wild kelp. We work with different organizations. Also, as Pat and Avery spoke on, this is the hat right here with Sea Trees, Sustain Surf. So every product that we create, goes towards funding kelp reforestation in California, awareness, education. We test the kelp as well. So that's one of the biggest things, having a science background with horticulture and the business side of things. Just on my own dime, sending samples to the lab for radiation. They do big gamma spectroscopy reports on the kelp, nutritional analysis, heavy metals, and all the microbiology. That's just something that always blows my mind. The discovery of the minerals and the different, omegas and aminos and that are in the kelp is just so important for the nutritional value when we're consuming it and when we're adding it to the soil or on our skin, using it topically. So that led me on another journey to create different culinary products as well. So, we started off with, when we tested the kelp, we had it freeze dried, and that creates such a potent product where a very, very small quantity of the kelp needs to be harvested in order to maximize the nutritional value. So that's what we, created a natural iodine source. Sorry, the light got really low and it's raining out, so I'm in a dark little house, but this is our iodine supplement. So this, in 132 milligrams of the powder will offer somebody 100% their daily value of iodine. And, I sell at farmers markets, I do workshops, I work with, the native tribes, I work with all people of all walks of life, from pregnant women to, our elders. And I've seen iodine deficiencies across all walks of life. And this has been helping a lot of people. And it's something that I'm really passionate about to offer to someone that is struggling with their health. Also, we're working with a local salt company down in Big Sur Sea Salt. And we're adding the kelp to the salt. It's one of the most beautiful salts I've ever seen, and iodizing it naturally. So as opposed to, potassium iodide, we can get that naturally through the kelp and make a beautiful salt with it. These are all, sustainable packaging as much as we can, touching on that. It's so hard. We're using glass, metal lids. This is a paint can we're using. We source these. They can be recycled. We're just really working on packaging. We do the dehydrated giant kelp seasoning as well. So this is same thing, as many of us know, the umami flavor. This is with giant kelp as well, and it's just a pure kelp seasoning. And then we do our dried seaweeds, and I'll show you a few fresh varietals of the species I harvest along this coast. So here we have the bladderwrack, our Pacific bladderwrack, or also known as rockweed, Fucus gardneri. And here is the dwarf rockweed, which is Pelvasiopsis limitata. So both of these, this is kind of a kombu substitute, the rockweed or the bladderwrack. It's great for stocks, cooking beans, rice. Brant, as you talked about, or someone asked you about the desserts, we made a ice cream out of this, and it was incredible. It's very gelatinous, so it thickens things up. And then this is an all-around just amazing mild seaweed, the dwarf rockweed. It's really just great for salads, soups, stir fries. They have a long shelf life, and they're both browns, so really, really nice to cook with. And then if people that don't know, here's the giant kelp. So this traditional fresh giant kelp right here, Baja to Alaska, there's different species. This is Macrocystis pyrifera. There's Macrocystis integrifolia, but this is the one that, dominates the coastline from Baja to basically San Francisco. And then it grows north of here as well, but that's what dominates California kelp forest up until the north central coast. And
I'm scanning you into the corner here at the end. I thank you for the rundown. I'm getting
get it done.
I really love and respect how the diversity of products, your approach, literally going hand and collecting it, and your collaborations. That's why I'm so stoked. I'm sorry you couldn't be here. And Bob, I look forward to it.
I wish I was, buddy. Looks gorgeous. Can't wait to see you guys curate, and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And thanks to all the seaweed lovers out there and people that are just really on to making this world a better place and shifting the food supply. And yeah, much respect and love to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely want to give you a chance. Ian's mentioned any of the social media ways to reach you so they can ask you questions. You can answer them, or you can see the products that you talked about today.
Sounds good. Yeah, so I'm just it's seaquia.com, and on our Instagram and Facebook is Seaquia Wild Seaweeds. So
awesome.
Thanks. All right.